Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're jumping right into a massive gap that exists in the business world. The gap between what organizations actually think they're delivering and what people genuinely feel. We're going to break down the master blueprint for transforming how your company handles human experiences. We're taking that vague, fuzzy concept of experience and turning it into a rigorous, highly effective discipline known as experience management, or XM.
Here's our quick roadmap for today. We'll start with the human experience problem, define exactly what XM is, look at its 3 core components, dive into the 6 competencies you need, and wrap up with how to scale your maturity. Let's get right to it. Kicking things off with Section 1, the human experience problem. So why on earth do companies treat people like robots? Historically, businesses have kind of just looked at humans, whether we're talking about employees, partners, or customers, as mindless entities that move predictably from one transaction right to the next. Think about it. We build these complex processes as if people operate on pure logic, perfectly completing step A, then moving to step B with absolutely zero friction. But, we all know that's a massive missed opportunity. In today's world where power has totally shifted to the individual, you literally cannot afford to ignore people's true needs and motivations. Because here is the reality of human behavior. We are emotional, intuitive, and incredibly complex. Just think about these 6 attributes for a second. We make decisions using mental shortcuts. We're highly social. We're hopeful. And honestly, we often view the world from a pretty self-centered perspective. We remember experiences based on how they make us feel, not the exact steps we took to get there. So our business systems actually have to evolve to capture this human reality, instead of trying to force humans to adapt to our rigid business systems. And that brings us to Section 2, defining experience management, or XM. This right here is the ultimate paradigm shift. It's all about blending your O data with your X data. Now, every company out there has O data, right? Operational data. Those are the standard spreadsheets showing what happened. Your sales numbers, clicks, employee turnover, support tickets. But O data by itself, it's fundamentally incomplete. It has no context. And that is exactly where X data, or experience data, comes into play. X data captures those human emotions, perceptions, and attitudes. It tells you exactly why something happened. So experience management is simply the discipline of using both of these data sets together to drive your business.
Now, the real magic happens when you apply this blended data across your 4 core business outputs: customer, employee, product, and brand experiences. Take product experience, for example. Your O data might show you that a brand new feature isn't being used. Okay, but why? Well, your X data steps in to tell you if it's because the feature is confusing or if your customers simply had no idea it even existed. When you apply this discipline across all 4 of these pillars, you stop guessing and you start knowing. Moving right along to Section 3, the 3 components of XM. Let's look at the actual framework to make this happen. You need 3 absolutely crucial elements to fuel this discipline. First, technology. You need a platform to infuse intelligence throughout the organization, uncovering insights and routing them to the right people automatically. Second, a culture that actually nurtures XM mindsets. And third, competency, the real-world skills to pull this off. It's like a 3-legged stool. If you're missing even one of these pieces, the entire framework just collapses. Let's zoom in on culture for a sec, because it's huge. If your underlying environment isn't purpose-led and human-centric, your XM efforts are going to stay trapped in isolated little pockets instead of transforming the whole enterprise. A true XM culture is also change-minded, meaning you can make improvements without facing massive internal pushback. It's evidence-based, running on that X and O data instead of just gut feelings. And finally, it's externally oriented, so you're always ready to adapt to marketplace shifts. Okay, Section 4, the 6 XM competencies. This is the actual engine of the framework. Think of this first group as your internal setup phase. First, lead. You have to architect a multi-year strategy. You can't just send out a couple of surveys and call it XM, right? Next is realize, which is forecasting value and tracking strict metrics. You got to tie this to real outcomes like lower turnover or higher retention. And third is activate, which means overcoming natural organizational inertia by actually equipping your people with the skills and communication they need. Once you're set up, the engine runs continuously in the execution phase. You enlighten the organization by turning that X and O data into actionable insights for the right people. Then you respond. And this is make or break. Gathering insights is totally useless if you don't take action and fix issues immediately. Finally, you disrupt. This is where you go beyond just fixing what's broken and actually design bold, new, human-centric experiences that set your brand apart. Let's make this super concrete with a scenario. Imagine an airline mastering this stuff. They wouldn't just log delayed luggage as some sterile operational statistic. Their O data would tell them luggage delays spike when multiple international flights land within 20 minutes of each other. Their X data would capture the severe, boiling frustration of exhausted passengers at the carousel. So instead of sending a generic apology email a week later, they dynamically adjust their staffing models based on flight arrivals. They step in proactively to prevent the bottleneck before anyone even gets frustrated. That is the sheer power of Enlighten Respond in action.
Which brings us to our final section, scaling your XM maturity. How do we actually evolve this?
You're going to systematically climb these 5 maturity steps. Step 1, investigate. You're just identifying value and getting executives on board. In initiate, you kick off some isolated projects to prove it works. By mobilize, you've actually got full-time staff and cross-functional teams. In scale, you're using advanced analytics across multiple business lines. And finally, stage 5, embed. This is where the whole shebang is ingrained into every single process, and your organization is rapidly adapting to human needs in real time. And as you build these skills, your efforts will naturally spread out. You start small in step 1, maybe an isolated post-call support survey. Then you expand in step 2 to predictive analytics. Step 3 is where it gets really cool, adjacent experiences. You realize, hey, we can't improve customer support without also improving the employee experience of our call center agents. Finally, step 4, extended experiences, where you apply XM to things even outside your direct control, like your external distributor networks.
This quote right here really hits the nail on the head. Finding and fixing problems is absolutely necessary, sure, but it is not sufficient. If you're only using data to figure out what broke, you're constantly playing defense. You're just putting out operational fires. When XM is fully matured, you are playing offense. You understand human beings so deeply that you design experiences that actually capture their loyalty, their motivation, and their passion.
I really hope this explainer has given you the blueprint you need to rethink your operational data. The framework is right there for the taking. Blend your O data with your X data, build the right technology, foster the culture, and master those competencies. So the only question left for you is, are you going to stay stuck putting out operational fires, or are you ready to finally capture the hearts and minds of the humans powering your business?